Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I am Adam Williams.
And I'm Ashley Muckenhut.
And this is the radio show for the dreamers and doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena.
Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we find it.
We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show, brought to you by me, Adam Williams. I'm thinking about the troublemakers and we don't accept the status quo, and the mayor just walked by the studio, and I'm like, bring him in.
Yeah.
I got some questions I'd like to ask.
That'd been funny if like just random.
You think
mayor
he'd do it? He looked like he was going somewhere important.
Yeah.
More important than this.
There's
probably
been a lot of people walking by waving and smiling. It's like a little Christmas cheer.
Well, Joel's a celebrity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's a man about town. He's got could we call your show the #1 talk radio show in Erie, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it's the only one.
All right. #1.
I love it.
#1.
Daily.
Yeah.
Yes.
#1 daily radio show. We're the #1 Wednesday at 9 a.m. radio show.
Yes.
Talk radio.
Yep.
Are there? I wonder if there are even any live local DJs Wednesdays at 9 a.m. in Erie. I'd have to look. If Alan Carpenter's listening, no offense, man, you're the best. You're a legend. All right. Love you, AC. All right. Oh man, episode 39, and we are about to go into a little lull, a little holiday break, a little Christmas break, because next Wednesday's Christmas, the following Wednesday is New Year's Day, and we're not going to come in studio.
No.
So this is it. We're reflecting.
Yeah, we're looking back. Matter of fact.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So
Give us the title.
today's topic is the best of Maverick mindset: rewind, reflect, and resolve.
I had a lot of I was like regroup and restore.
There was a lot of R words.
Yeah, there was. We could go on. We could do a whole show on R words. I also, since it's the holiday reflecting show, and actually this has kind of been a topic on recent shows of like stop and pause and look back on what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But I also wore my Christmas shoes.
Oh, nice!
That was awesome.
I love those. I saw you had posted. Yep, nice.
Yeah. All right.
It's like elf shoes, but cooler.
I'm in the holiday spirit. You know what else is helping? This is really. I've been thinking
about
about
the way,
yeah, go ahead.
yesterday we all wear red. Today we're in green.
Except Joel.
Joel.
Joel's wearing red.
Yeah.
We're all in the spirit.
Yep.
And so I was thinking about that yesterday, because this is the season at our office where Christmas cards show up and gift baskets.
Cookies.
And we gladly accept all of these,
Absolutely.
right? Like, we're not turning any of this stuff away. So here's what I was thinking about. I was approaching this from the Maverick mindset perspective. And we got from one of our clients who owns a law firm a Thanksgiving card. And I like that because, it's the season of gratitude.
Yeah.
And our show on gratitude was fantastic a couple weeks ago. But it's a season of gratitude, so you want to say thanks to your friends, colleagues, supporters, clients, whatever. And I like that because it's a little out of the ordinary. And I remember it. Like, that one stuck out. And then now we're in this period where it's like everybody's sending stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really cool, and it sort of lifts my spirits. And I've been thinking about, like, I would like to do something after the first of the year because, again, it doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
So that was thought number one was, a New Year's.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Like, let's rock and roll in 2025.
Yeah.
It'd be cooler if that rhymed. I'll think of something, but let's jump and jive in 2025.
Oh,
all right.
my God.
No, well, that's a work in progress.
Jump and jive.
was that Cherry Poppin' Daddies Zoot Scoot Riot? All right. No, remember when swing dancing was really big?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackie and I did a swing dancing class when I was at the University of Michigan. That was fun.
Yeah, there was a time period where.
Yeah. So so we're. But here's the other thing that I was thinking, is because my spirits are lifted right now because all of this stuff is showing up. It's like it's also nice that, like, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to get in the mix with everybody else right now, sending stuff, thoughtful things. So I don't know. That was what I was thinking about yesterday, and because yesterday I got back in the office. Yesterday was Tuesday, so I'd been out for 2 days.
Yes.
Not in the office, and so when I showed up, I also had birthday gifts on my desk. So it was like I was in a good mood yesterday. And the bet, like, you wrote a really nice card and brought me a Ted Lasso book, and then Tyler, who listens to our show, I think pretty consistently, drew a picture of my race car.
Yeah.
And, like, framed it. And he wrote a really nice card, too. And that was like, was so thoughtful.
I didn't know he could draw like that. That was really
I didn't know
cool.
either. He's clearly an artist because
Yes.
he owns a car detail business.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. So, oh man, there are so many things I want to talk about today.
We have a lot.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this too. Like I'm reflecting on the show.
Yep.
We're on episode 39.
Yes.
Everybody took the under on that, first of all. Nobody thought we would make it this long. But
Yep.
our first show was about why you aren't accomplishing your goals.
Yes.
And I totally forgot this. It was 40 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We talked about, I gave an example of you're not accomplishing your goals because your priorities aren't lined up. And how do you discover what your priorities are? You look at your calendar and your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not spending your time and your money in alignment with your goals, you're not going to hit them.
Right.
That's a very quick summary of something we went further in depth on. And I gave an example of if you say that you want to sing more and get on more stages and be in a show at the Playhouse, well, why aren't you rehearsing? Why aren't you auditioning? Why aren't you doing the things that you need to do?
Taking action.
That was show number 1.
Yeah.
And then Joel went and did it.
Yes.
Joel, our producer.
And I think you're
Number 1 talk radio host.
thinking
in
of a
Pennsylvania.
second one.
So he goes out and auditions, and Guys and Dolls.
Yep.
What was the character's name?
Nicely.
Yeah. He had like spotlight, front of stage, solo. Like Joel killed it. And we went, you didn't go, but I went to one of the shows.
Sorry, Joel.
And on the other side of the theater were a whole bunch of people in Joel's family, right? Some of whom I know, some of whom I don't. But there was like a whole Natalie cohort at the Erie Playhouse, right? So here, think about this. We say something on the radio show
Yeah.
that Joel goes out and says, I got to take some action now. I want to do this. I'm going to go and do it. And his friends and family and kids see him do that, show up to the show, and they know the story of he did this in high school.
Yep.
He didn't do any more theater for a really long time, and then he got back into it as a grown man. So because of something that we said on one show, one person took action, and then 5,000 people saw the impact of that.
Yeah.
That was episode number 1.
That was 1.
So I think about, I mean,
How many more people did we impact? That's the
it,
point,
right?
though. That's the point.
all right.
That's
So,
what-
but let's not make it just about this show.
Yeah.
A lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs, business owners, or people who care about the job that they have, right? Which there's certainly a shortage of people like that out in the world. So thank you for caring, people. Our business, your business, if you're a listener, the job that you have, think about that impact and how it multiplies. If you change one client, customer, patient experience,
Yep.
and you make someone's life better, it impacts their family.
Yes.
It impacts their friends. It impacts the people that they interact with on the street. For us in particular, we work with business owners. So when we help a business owner and we help that business,
Helps the
we then
community.
help that business's employees, which helps that business's employees' family, which helps an entire community.
It's a big reach. Like
It's massive.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Yep.
And again, reflecting back on show number 1, where your goals aren't clear enough and you don't want it bad enough, if you really start to think about that impact and how it magnifies and amplifies and multiplies, how does that not get you fired up to go out and do something awesome today?
Yeah.
Like I don't believe that there are many people out there that care so little about other people that they don't get fired up by that thought.
I mean, I would hope not.
It makes me want to come in and do a Christmas Day show.
I know.
And I have
the
so many
Santa hat?
I have so many more thoughts on that. But that impact. What did you say last week, Joel? Like you can basically go live and 5,000 people are listening at any moment, right? I don't know if I'm allowed to share those statistics.
All week.
Okay.
Yeah, 5,000 a week.
I mean, that's a good chunk of the population of
Yeah.
Erie, Pennsylvania, Erie County. Think about how that impact can multiply of the people that tune in and listen. And I do. Like when I turn on my car and it's on FM radio, like it defaults to this station,
Yeah.
and I get to hear a lot of the stuff that they cover. And sometimes it's Joel, or sometimes it's national syndicated shows, which we'd like to become. and like, I just think that's so cool, and we as a society don't spend enough time to stop and think about that. Because here's the other part: is like if we did stop to think about that, we would approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. Right? Like,
Absolutely.
that would get me fired up.
Yeah.
All right. So before we completely hijack this entire script and how we outlined it, let's say the same thing we say every show of where you can find us. So right now, we are streaming live on Facebook, Maverick Mindset Radio. And in fact, I want to give you a chance to talk here in a minute so that I can go and share it.
Okay.
Which all of you should be doing. If you're listening live on YouTube, we're streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're streaming live on Facebook. If you like what you hear, share the show.
Yes.
Multiply that impact for us.
Yes.
That can be your good deed of the day. Because we are going to say something today.
It's going to impact somebody.
An entire community.
Yeah.
An entire community.
Yep.
The planet. That'd be cool. I don't know if we're there yet, but
I mean, we'll get there.
I'm gonna keep swinging until we get there. It's only been 39 episodes.
That's right. I mean, listen, I remember on the first episode, we were like, we don't know if we're going to make it to number 2.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
39 episodes of growth.
Yeah. All right. So we got the episodes up on Spotify. I told you, I went back this morning and I started listening to episode 1.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's kind of funny how the show has evolved, but it's also really good. And we said on that first show, like, we don't have this whole thing built out. We didn't plan and prepare this. We just said, we're going to go and do a radio show. And it's going to be awesome. And we promise, my guarantee for episode 1 was a 5 fire emoji guarantee. Like, that's how you were going to rate this thing. And I think we delivered on that promise.
Absolutely.
And that's all you can ask of somebody.
Yeah.
They call their shot and then they deliver on it. Oh, man, we need more of those people in the world. All right, MaverickMindsetRadio.com. We got the Maverick merch. We got the coffee mugs. We got the notebooks. We got stickers. You can use the code Maverick10 for 10% off. And then, of course, we're on iTunes also. So if you want to go back in the archives and listen, if you're new to this show, go and do it now. Because here's the thing. A year from now, you're going to do a lot more scrolling to go back to those early episodes.
Yeah.
Your thumb's going to get tired.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking out for you.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to some old shows here.
Trying to help you out.
Yeah. All right. So here's the other fun thing that we did. Can you tell us the steps you went through to prepare for this show and what we did?
Oh, man.
It took a while.
It took a while. It took a few hours.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and find all of the audios from the past episodes that we did.
All 38 of them.
All 38 of them. So Joel sends those to us, I believe. But anyways, they're in a nice little folder, all the audio. So what then I had to do is, if you go to Otter, what I can do is I can import all of those.
And that's our AI transcript service. Yep.
So I can import all those. That does not happen quickly because these are our episodes.
Yeah, it was 38 hours of content.
Yeah, and I had to do it a couple times because as I thought I uploaded them, then all of a sudden they were lost, and I'm like, no. So imported them, and then I got to pull out the summary of every episode, and then I needed to put it in a document, and then I needed to go through and make sure, like, the most important part. There's some things that you don't need that are in there, and make sure I edit that and then share it with you, who then had the ability, which I did not.
Wait. I want to stop, though, because where's the link to this thing? Because the docket, it was 70 pages, wasn't it?
Yes. Go to it's line 35.
Oh, in the Run a Show.
Yep.
All right, sorry, I was in Ring Central looking for the message.
Yep.
Line 35. Yeah, so it was something. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's a tiny little link.
Yep.
Let's see. How many pages is this? Every show. 71 pages.
Yeah. 71.
So I took that 71 pages and I went into ChatGPT and said, review this transcript of my show and give me a summary of the common themes and topics that come up. And it did it, of course, in like 2 seconds. It was awesome. And that was kind of, you know why I did that? Did I tell you why I did that? I mean, obviously it makes sense. Like that was just a cool use of AI summarizing 71 pages of
Which
stuff.
We do have an episode on that.
We do. That was a good episode. So I did that because it's been a while, but the last sort of like life coach, personal coach, therapist I worked with, I told her, like, we often end up talking about the same things in our appointments or whatever they're called. And she said, well, yeah, like those themes, those common topics are the things that matter to you.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason we don't talk about other stuff, and it's because you don't care about that stuff, and that's okay. So I thought, I mean, really what it is, the common topics that we talk about on this show, if this show was a
Break it down.
business,
Yeah.
if this show was a business, those would be our core values.
Yeah.
That's it. And we did a show on core
We did.
values. I wish I paid more attention to the episode numbers on things, but you can go in Spotify and iTunes and search for the core values
Yeah.
episode. Because core values, and we talked about this on the show, they're not something that you invent, right? They're not aspirational. They're not something that you make up and say, we're going to aim for this.
Right.
Core values are your reality.
It was episode 33.
33. They are, it wasn't that long ago.
Nope.
Your core values are who you are. Or
Yes.
in your business, your core values reflect the way that most of your people act most of the time.
Yeah.
Like,
How we
that
do
is
things.
your reality. Yes.
Yeah.
And that is what separates you from other businesses. It's what makes you different from other businesses, which means in a lot of ways it makes you better than other businesses. And you hire and fire and train and develop around those core values.
And I think more people are doing that. I'm reading more people want to be hiring based on core values than anything else.
Because that is I'm gonna misuse the phrase, but that is the common denominator of success in
Yeah.
business. The common denominator of success is actually a different thing, but we should talk about that too. But yeah, I mean, that if you look at businesses, and this is Jim Collins, this is Built to Last, this is Good to Great, this is BE 2.0, which is I think his most recent book. They find the things that make great companies and allow companies to scale and make them durable and last, and it's the fact that they have core values.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, and we talked about this, I believe, on that episode, there's no right or wrong answer, right? Like there's no overlap of like the most successful companies in the world having the same core values. It's just that they have core values.
Yeah.
So I went through the summary. So this was a good part of reflecting, right? As I went through that summary, and it says we talk about personal and professional growth. Well, duh. we talk about leadership and team dynamics.
Yep.
We talk about entrepreneurial mindset, business operations and systems, community and relationships, and education and inspiration. That's a pretty good summary of what we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But where I was reflecting is I looked at that and I thought about, what do I wish we did more of?
Okay.
Or what did it miss, or where did I like drop the ball? Like, what are the things that I wanted to talk about that we haven't really?
And we always say that sometimes after the episodes, we're like, oh, we didn't have enough time to talk about this.
Yeah. So that was a good one, because you did an episode, I think, when I was in Bora Bora with Chrissy about what it's like working with your entrepreneurial boss.
That was one of my favorite.
And we did
Yeah.
2 follow-up episodes
Yes,
to that.
it was
So
a
literally
3-part.
3 of our 39
Yes.
episodes have been on that topic, and
Yep.
we could have kept going on it.
Yep.
But yeah, that's been true for a lot of these. As I get out, we did a show that was titled "This Is What I Signed Up For," and during the entire hour-long episode, I never explained what that meant.
You said that right off.
Yeah.
You're like, I didn't even explain what I meant by that.
Yeah, it would have been good to. That was a preparation issue for sure for me. So, yeah. So I think I thought of some other topics that I wish we spent more time on. Too.
Okay.
So what were your highlights? Like, if we're gonna go and reflect on the year, like, think about when was our first episode? Was that
March 27th?
March
I think it
27th.
was. Yep.
I should go back in my messages. This is really funny. I remember, I think I sent you a message in Ring Central and
Yeah.
said, do you want to be on a radio show? And you're like, yes, absolutely.
I had no details.
No, that was it. That was all you needed. And then I was also laughing because we talked about this on episode 1 when I said, have you ever been on the radio before?
Yeah.
And you're like, I was interviewed on the street once.
That just popped up in my memories too.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so what I want to go back and find that message because it's kind of funny, because I have screenshots. This just popped up in my phone recently of the screenshots of the text messages from when Brock and I started our food truck.
Oh man.
The Big Cheese food truck.
Yep.
And I thought all along, I came up with the phrase, the bee's knees of grilled cheese. It was on the side of our truck. It was on our t-shirts. It was on our website. Turns out he's the one who sent that message.
Really?
Yeah. I had no idea. I took credit for his brilliance in that moment.
Oh man.
So I sent him that. I mean, that was that 2018, I think? So 6 years ago. Yeah, that was fun. So anyway, I should go back and find our messages from how this show started. But
Oh yeah.
But yeah, 39 episodes going back to March, 9 months into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What
And there was a lot of like times of like, what topics do we want? Are we going to fill
Yeah.
an hour? There was, you would message me before every okay, what are the fillers in case you don't fill the, and I'm like, I think we're going to be fine. Because by the time we, the research on everything and then sitting down and going back for it, you can't cover everything. The topics were really important topics that we would get going on everything. And it was impossible to get all of the information in an hour episode, right? I think we said a couple times, this needs to be like 2 hours.
we could do a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
That would allow us to catch up.
Yeah.
That would be like a Joe Rogan episode. Those things
Yeah.
are like 3 or 4 hours long.
Yep.
That would be a blast.
I would listen for 2 hours.
I would listen to myself for
I'd
2
listen to
hours.
myself for 2 hours.
Yeah,
I loved every episode that we did. And there were some episodes that I think you'd say, hey, we're going to do this. I'm like, it's not my favorite. But then I would really end up enjoying it. My favorite is the fear and failure episode. Obviously, I was really excited when we got to that one because in my opinion, I think that's the biggest thing that stops us from taking action or, like you've said, making decisions. So that was one of my favorite episodes. If you haven't listened to it, you need to go back and listen to it.
That was early too. That was an early episode, I think.
Yeah.
That you're going to scroll and find.
I'm going to find it because I think it's important for people. There were some really, really important, like the goals, the self-talk one. There's some, habits. All of these were so good that going back and re-listening to these, it was episode 11, Fear and Failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one was really interesting for me because that episode is a common theme for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chapter in my book, which when we started this radio show, my book wasn't even published.
No, we talked about another. We interviewed you as the.
That's right. I was the guest.
Yeah.
So it's in the book. It was a live speech that I gave for the Erie Chamber, 2023, right? End of 2023 at Homecoming, which was really well received. Like, it's a common theme for me. But what was interesting about that show is I created, so the whole idea behind that topic is there's only 3 ways to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You don't try, you give up, or you don't learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Like, those are the 3 ways to fail. I was taught 2 of them, that you give up or you don't learn the lesson. Jackie then, through talking about this so often, said, well, if you never try, that's failure as well. If you don't step into the arena. So that added to my theory. And then I added another one. And this is a theme from this show. Like, big picture, 30,000 foot view on this show is we truly value the individual.
Yep.
So your goals, and we talk a lot about goals, time, money, and impact. Personal goals, professional goals, financial goals. Like how you want to spend your time, how much money you want to make to live the life that you want to live, and the impact that you want to have.
Yeah.
Your goals fall into one of those 3 categories.
Yeah.
Right? So the new theory, the new element that I added, the new way to fail is if you are working towards someone else's goals that they created for you. Like, if your goals are not your own,
Yeah.
that is a form of failure. And
Yep.
and that was something, through talking about this on 38 episodes, that was like a new thing that I discovered, or that was sort of a eureka moment for me of, like, if you're living by someone else's standards, if you're living to the goals that someone else has established for you, and for a lot of us, it's our parents, right? It's what our parents want for us. But if you never stop to examine those goals, you are in fact failing.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is some people never even achieve those goals because they're not personally motivated or inspired by them. They're doing it out of obligation. And then there's the other people who absolutely crush the goals that their parents set for them because they have to, keep their parents happy, which I think is really interesting. I have a friend that was like a world-class swimmer. He hated swimming, but his mom pushed him into swimming, and he was pretty naturally gifted at it and just dominated at it, right? But he wasn't fulfilled by that at all. So that was a topic that was something that I really uncovered here, is like, you as a person can set goals for yourself, and there is no right or wrong answer so long as you're thinking critically about this and making the decision for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's where failure comes into it, is we're afraid of setting the wrong goals, or we're afraid of not hitting them or whatever. But it turns out that if you actually are intentional and mindful and give this some thought, and you decide for yourself what you want, you can't get it wrong.
Well, and that's the whole thing, is really taking the time to sit and think, what do I want for myself? What kind of life do I want to live? What are the things that I want to do? What is my, almost like your purpose, right? Your goals are, and what your standard, we talked about goals, standards, tolerations, all of this stuff, right? So going past it, then you really have to think about, then who do I have to surround myself with that keep me on that?
What podcast should I be consuming?
Yes. So, and it's all the things that we've gone through on these shows. What are you listening to? What are you reading? Who are you around? Like, what are the things that you're doing? Because if you're not aligning, first step, what do you want for yourself? Second step is setting yourself up on that path and the things around you to make sure that you're going to have success in the things that you want. And a lot of times we miss that. You can't keep doing what you're doing over here and expect what you want over there is going to come to you. It doesn't work that way. Your goals are over here. And if you're aligning yourself with the wrong people, and again, I'm using my hands, on the opposite side of that, you're never going to get there.
So yeah, that's really interesting, because you set the goal, you come up with the plan, you start executing on it, which is another pretty common theme from this show. But yeah, so if you've got the thing that you want to achieve, and then we're going to look at your priorities, like I said, your bank account and your calendar, how are you spending your time and how are you spending your money? But really the third element of that is, and what is the environment that you're putting yourself into to allow you to accomplish that goal?
Yes.
And that can be your physical environment. It can be the environment of the people that you surround yourself with. It can be the environment of the things that you consume.
Yeah.
Are you watching The Real Housewives of whatever? Or are you reading books and listening to podcasts and watching documentaries that can actually teach you lessons?
Yeah.
Because here's what happens. Here's where this becomes second nature. Like, once you do this so much, it is a long and tedious process, but these little hinges swing big doors. Penny and I were watching The Santa Claus last night with Tim Allen, right?
Yes.
So
Classic.
Santa falls off the roof and Tim Allen becomes Santa Claus. And I had to stop and take notes, because I don't even remember the scene, but Tim Allen is sitting with his son Charlie. Charlie has a lot of questions about Santa Claus. How does he go to all these houses at once? How does he fit down the chimneys? What about the houses that don't have chimneys? And Tim Allen says, Charlie, sometimes believing in something just means you believe it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know he's talking about Santa Claus, and we're not going to question any of your beliefs around Santa Claus. But isn't that really what it comes down to? Is if you set a goal and you believe you can achieve it, and you believe that you can do the things that you want to do, isn't that really what it comes down to? Is sometimes to believe that, you just need to believe it.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of here I am watching The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. And it's kind of a cute movie. It's kind of a funny movie.
I like that movie.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I pull this lesson from it of
well, that's why when we talked about the episodes or the shows that we watch, the movies we watch, and we talked about Ted Lasso, what do we see at the end of this show, and what is the thing that is always hanging above his door?
Oh, yeah.
And I got you the sign for your birthday. It is,
I believe in you.
or yeah,
Well, the belief, right? That's the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they hang in there. We say it at the end of this show, and it is just that you gotta believe your own, and I can't swear, but you gotta believe the stuff you're telling yourself, and the goals that you want and the things that you want to do. If you don't believe in that, how are you ever gonna get there?
You know what's funny is I didn't connect those dots.
Really? Well, you're welcome.
I did
That's
not.
what I'm here for.
I did not connect those dots. But isn't that nice? Yeah, you got to believe in yourself, but isn't it also nice to be surrounded by people or influenced by people who believe in you too?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. You can't, if you're not, I mean, you can, you can believe in yourself, right? You're pretty strong, but you're silly to believe if you can't.
You should believe in yourself.
Yes. That's a hard thing for people to do.
I don't like
though.
the word should, but I'm going to throw that
Yeah.
out there.
You can do it. You have the ability to, but you also need the people surrounded. You also need to be surrounded by people that believe in you also.
Yeah.
And what you want to do, because that's a big part of it. I don't know. Okay.
So we were a lot of this, a lot of things that I talk about and a lot of things that I learned, like, yes, I've learned them on the streets, right? Through the school of hard knocks. I hate both of those phrases, but through life, through living and succeeding.
Yes.
And getting my butt handed to me.
And failing.
And landing in the gutter with the rain pouring on my face and staring up at the sky going, man, I got to get back up, right? I've learned a lot of stuff that way. But I also learned a lot from my parents who were entrepreneurs, right? So a lot of the mindset, some of the mindset stuff that I have and some of the outlook that I have towards business and life and success comes from my parents.
Yeah.
So like, clearly there's paradigms there, and some of them I've kept and some of them I've changed. But I was thinking about this. So my dad's had some medical issues, right? And he's had problems with his legs, although it sounds like maybe this is getting better. So last Wednesday, I finally passed the written portion of my exam for my pilot's license.
Yep.
Finally, right? It's taken me over a year. It's embarrassing. Talk about why I'm not accomplishing my goals. I checked 6 of the 8 boxes from that episode. So I texted my parents and like, when are you coming to get us? And I said, hey, last time, like when you were here in October and you saw the plane, you said you couldn't get in and out of the plane. And my dad texted me and said, we'll either find a way or make one, which is what we talked about that, I think, on the last episode, right? Of where we got that sign. Like, that's such a great example of a way that I grew up. And I don't think most people think about things that way.
No.
Most people think about how the world is acting on them and not how they can act upon the world.
Yeah.
And so that mindset right there, if I can teach one thing from this episode, if that's what you get out of this episode, that you act upon the world and the world doesn't act upon you. You are not a victim to these circumstances, but you are a creator of your life.
Yeah.
Man, how empowering that is.
Yeah.
So I had another example too. I actually wanted to tell this story earlier in the show and I totally forgot about it. But I was Christmas Eve, thinking about Christmas Eve.
Yes.
And
Christmas Eve.
I guess that I forgot to tell Chrissy, about my assistant, about my approach to Christmas Eve.
Oh yeah, this was it. Yes.
And then when I alluded to this, she laughed at me. And I'm okay. Like, I'm okay being laughed at. It was
This
more
is your tradition. This is what you do on
It was
Christmas
more of
Eve.
a reflection of, man, I should have explained this to her because she needs to understand.
I thought about it. I know what it is, and I thought about it too. And I'm like, has this conversation happened yet?
Nope. No, it's going to.
Yeah.
Maybe today. I'll be in the office after this today. But so here's my Christmas Eve tradition.
Yes.
And this is interesting too, because Jackie and I think a lot about the traditions that we have, and we examine why we engage in those traditions, and then we decide whether we want to continue with them or not. Right? That sounds completely harsh to some people. They just do what they've always done because that's how it's always been done, and we need to carry on the tradition. But Jackie and I really stop and think, why do we do this thing? So my tradition, my parents owned a retail business, consumer electronics, car stereo, remote starts, home theater, all that stuff. Well, as a traditional brick and mortar retail business, their busiest time of the year is Black Friday to Christmas Eve. So they would my dad would bring in seasonal staff. They would like that. This was the time of the year where they worked this part of the year to keep the lights on the rest of the year, right? So every Christmas Eve at 2 p.m., they would lock the doors to the store and shut off the lights, and my dad would empty the cash register, and we would at that moment start our Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
That's our tradition.
Christmas Eve.
And a bunch of guys would show up, whether they worked for him or were just friends with him. They'd show up with cases of Heineken. And when it's cold enough in Erie, Pennsylvania, there is nothing better than putting beers in a snow mound to let them get and stay cold. And then you crack those open. I, of course, didn't do that until I was 21. But man, there's nothing better than a bunch of dudes on Christmas Eve at 2 p.m. getting in the Christmas spirit, beers in the snow mound, and then get ready, Mall, we're coming.
I can see it.
It was awesome, right? It was a really fun tradition. And then we always ended the night at Walmart because you had to buy the wrapping paper. Then we go back to the store and wrap all the gifts, and everybody's having an absolute blast. And all of these guys with kids and wives and families, no one questioned them on why they were doing this, right? It's not, oh, you're missing the family dinner. They just knew like this was the life. So it was sad several years ago, my parents sold that building. The place that the company that bought it tore it down and rebuilt a new building. So like I remember the first Christmas Eve I drove by and there was just a hole in the ground. And I'm like, man, that was 30 some years of my life doing that, right? But that was the tradition. Here's where I started to examine that. Why did he do it? Well, because he was really busy, right? Like it was sales until that moment when they closed the door. And honestly, if we were there at 7 o'clock at night drinking beers and wrapping presents, and somebody knocked on the door and said, "I need a Christmas gift," turn those lights back on and open that door. And how many businesses wouldn't do that? Instead, it's the store is closing in 15 minutes. Please bring your purchases to the front. My dad had a mindset of, yo, they have money and I have a thing that they want. We're going to make this happen.
Yep.
Right? So much fun. But also, here's where like the logic actually comes into play. How many hours do most people spend Christmas shopping? Tons.
Yeah.
A couple weekends, some time on Amazon. Imagine if you are you fill the container that you have. Imagine if you have from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's it. Like you better get to work.
You have a lot
so we've
to
saved
cover.
ourselves a ton of time.
Yeah.
And also, part of me feels bad for people who work on Christmas Eve, but on the other hand, they are all in a good mood. Like anybody who actually shows up to their job, and we're talking retail, kind of thankless jobs, or restaurants, they're in a really good mood because everybody's in a really good mood.
It's Christmas Eve.
It is the best Christmas shopping experience imaginable.
Yeah.
You don't drag it out unnecessarily.
Right.
You have this container of time that you get it done in. Everybody's in a
It's
really
very
good mood.
focused. Like, you know what you're yeah.
That's it. So I don't work in retail. I have no need to continue this tradition, but I continue it because I really enjoy it and it works.
Yep.
And I've now changed the tradition with my kids. So my parents moved to Florida. My dad has abandoned this tradition in Erie, Pennsylvania. So every couple of years, some guys will join me. Open invite. Any guy in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm going to throw this out there. Any guy anywhere in America. Dudes only. No offense. 2 p.m. Christmas Eve. We meet at Permane Brothers at the mall.
Yep.
They have $5 Long Island iced teas.
I was going to say, I was like, what's the drink?
And if you drink 2 of those,
you're ready.
The Christmas spirit is abundant. And it's an absolute blast. And we try. The other sad thing is the jewelry store that I've gone to for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
It's locally owned. They retired. So now I need a new local jewelry store this year. That was kind of a bummer. But it was think about this. The people in that jewelry store knew that I was showing up with my kids every Christmas Eve. And it got to the point where they saw my kids grow up.
Oh.
They saw me go in there with baby Royce, and now I'm going in with teenager Royce.
Yep.
And they got cookies for my kids because they know we're coming in. And if it was a good year in the business, that's their Christmas bonus, walking in the door right there.
Yeah.
Right? So that tradition, that way of thinking about things, most people are going to hear me say, I start my Christmas shopping at 2 p.m. on Christmas Eve. I may start at noon, depending on how hungry I am, or if I got to take the kids somewhere and then separate the kids to get them gifts, whatever. Yeah. Most people hear that and go, oh, last minute, huh? And it's like, yeah, but it's also super efficient and everybody's in a good mood and it really works for me and it's a fantastic tradition that I have.
It's a good experience.
And it is a time that my kids know I'm going to be hanging out with them. Yeah. And maybe they'll carry this tradition on, or maybe they won't.
But maybe it'll evolve the way that there was the tradition.
It'll be 2 p.m. on Amazon with drone delivery. But
yeah, you never know. But won't it be interesting to another maybe 15 years from now see how it's evolved and how they do it?
Yeah, that is interesting. Because
right?
you wonder,
you know your story with your dad and all them, and now they're gonna be telling their story with you, and then I wonder what theirs will be, because it is evolved throughout the years.
Yeah. So if anybody who wants to engage in this tradition, you can meet me at 2 p.m. If you want to do it on your own, go for it. It is kind of funny seeing people I know out on Christmas Eve. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but
it's like a wink, like I know what you're doing.
I'm in Yankee Candle, standing in line, and I run into a guy I know, and he goes, "Dude, thank you so much for this." I am so efficient. I am cranking this out.
There's a part of me too that kind of feels like guys might want to be out of the house on Christmas Eve as well, because is it a little bit of an escape too?
It totally is.
Yeah.
It totally is. Yeah. Yeah. And so the other part of it that I try to be really intentional about, and again, this was just the way I was raised, so it's second nature to me, but maybe more people don't think about this, is I need to make a list of all the locally owned businesses that are open on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. Because I prefer to shop there, and I'm going to go there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to spend cash. And when we do go to Permane Brothers and get our Long Islands and our sandwiches, I'm usually going to tip the bill, at a minimum, because you're there on Christmas Eve. Yep. And frankly, my service is usually outstanding because you're in a good mood because it's Christmas Eve, even though you're working, right? So we're gonna tip really well. We're gonna support locally owned businesses as much as possible, and it's gonna be a fantastic time. And that is the tradition that I have, and that's the way that I approach Christmas Eve. That most people will hear that and say, "Well, you're just a procrastinator." It's like, no,
There's
I'm
purpose
way
behind it.
yeah, I'm very
I planned
intentional.
this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is true for the other aspects of my life. I am very intentional about the things that I do.
Where your time is, how you're spending your time.
And my focus and what brings me joy. So yeah, I wanted to share that story because it was
It's a great
that was
Christmas story.
Yeah, I did want to go and find some other fun Christmas story mindset things, but I didn't bother with it because I was so enthralled by our 39 episodes that we've been through. You know what else? Let me bring the mood down.
Oh man, what?
Well, let's so we part of this exercise is reflect on what we did and be grateful.
Yeah.
Right? And say, I'm so glad, Adam, that you did this. I'm so glad, Ashley, that you did this. But don't we also have to stop and say, here's what I wish you had done differently, or here's what I want you to do differently in the future?
Yeah.
Isn't that part of this exercise?
Yeah.
Like, we could show up for another 39 episodes and do the exact same thing, and it's probably going to continue to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? These shows, like...
But we're not aiming to be pretty good.
No, we're aiming to constantly improve.
Yeah.
So we got to look at where we fell short and where we need to step up. So, I mean, the obvious one for me is, like, there are a few episodes where I wish I had organized my thoughts just a little bit better beforehand, because when we're teaching especially when it's more than just a conversation, when we're teaching a topic,
Right.
it's good to have that outline of point 1, 1A, 1B, 2, 2A, 2B, 2C,
Yeah.
3A. Like, organizing my thoughts like that really helps me. I think it makes it easier to listen to. I know that there are people out there that take notes on the things that we do. The other part of it is, though, I find that talking about these topics for an hour a week makes me better at these topics. Mm-hmm. The gratitude one completely changed the last 2 weeks for me.
Yeah.
That has been top of mind because I spent time preparing, and then we did that whole episode, and it's like, it's there for me, and I'm thinking about
There's things that, like, I live all of these every day because we practice these at work.
It's our core values.
It's our core values.
Yep.
So, but I still come out of it with, like, oh, I still have some aha moments, and I still there's things that, we talk about in the show that then I'm like, all right, I know where I need to make changes or do things differently coming out of what I've learned from that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I want more of that.
So here's another one. We did an episode, might have been episode 5, on a new thing that I wanted to launch, and I haven't done much with it since then. So that was the Biz 48 episode, where I wanted to create basically a new set of habits for business owners to follow, that if they did it every day for 48 days, I guaranteed it would transform their business.
Yeah.
And where I lost momentum on that is I can't find a US based company to print those cards for me at a price that isn't completely outrageous. Right. So I did some homework on that. Every couple months it comes back up and I do some searching or ask for referrals, but that one lost a lot of momentum because I can't find the company that I need to print the thing and manufacture the thing for me. So that was one where, like, we came out early episode, I think it was episode 5, we talked about this thing, and it's still an unfinished project for me. And I don't beat myself up over it. I think it's just a reminder of, like, there were 7 things I set out to do this year, and I think I'll finish 4. Well, 4 of them I finished. I may get the 5th done by the end of the year, depending on how hard I want to push. I probably won't. It's more of I'll get there eventually. I don't need an artificial 12/31 deadline to get it done. But that was one where it's like, I go back to these episodes, and that's one where I have a little bit of regret around, I probably could have put a little more emphasis on that. Now, the other part of it is, between episode 5, which that would have been, I don't know, April or May probably, and now life has happened. Like, a lot of things in my life look very different now than they did then. So my priorities did shift a little bit away from that. But that was one that's one that I have regret around. And then I was thinking about, if I could fast forward 12 months and I uploaded our next 50 episodes into ChatGPT and asked it to summarize, like, what are the topics I would want to hear?
Yeah. That's what I've thought about.
That's where this show really started for me. This is the show that I wish existed when I was starting my entrepreneurial journey, or the first 10 years of it, for that matter.
Yeah.
Right. So I think some more topics around vision and impact and legacy would be really good.
I like that I feel like with these first 39 episodes, we've kind of laid like a foundation of, here are the basic, not basic, but here is the foundation of being successful or having a Maverick mindset, right?
Yeah.
Goals, habits, standards, tolerations. How are you doing this? Who are you surrounding yourself with? How are you talking to yourself, right? So you have these tools to reflect back on. But now, like, I'd like to see the next part of it get like deeper, more raw into when you're in the midst of things and coming out. Like I said, you're episode 5, where you were at episode 5, life has happened in between there.
Yeah.
And that happens to everybody. A lot of life happens in between episode 5 and 39. And there's a quitting point in there for people, or there's a less action, or a getting comfortable and just staying there. And I want to break through and that. And we talked about, like I said, the dark side, right?
Yep.
Because it is not, I want to see those, I want to get more into those episodes and those topics.
And I think related to that, we should find some more guests to come in and talk about those topics with us.
Yeah.
I think we've got enough credibility now that we can invite some heavy hitters on this show to be our guests. Not that our prior guests haven't been heavy hitters, but I think we can continue to expand that reach with additional guests.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite shows was the show that we had. It was Maverick Moms with Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
And because in that show, it was a very raw show. And there was a part in that show where Jackie, there was emotion there. Mm-hmm. And it was that moment. And like, I think that hit a lot of people, especially working moms or even working fathers. And it hit a spot with people that most people feel in the midst of being an entrepreneur, just working and being successful, and then trying to have like this life outside of it. And that was one of my favorite episodes because I think it was so relatable to so many people. I want more of those and more guests that are very much relatable to other people and how they've gone on this journey.
So maybe we should set a goal for how often we will have guests on.
Yeah.
Because it just sort of happens now when we feel like it. And we'll reach out to people and say, let us know which one of these Wednesdays works for you. But
I want to be intentional with our episodes, knowing our topics, which we got in that part, and then planning ahead of time. We're laying out our goals right now.
Seriously, it's part of the exercise, right? So
Yeah.
I don't want to go and say, here's one thing that I know would not work is if we said, well, let's do a guest every other week.
We know that's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It requires a lot more coordination to have guests on. But if we said 10 guests next year, that's 1 per month on average, a little lower than that. So that gives us time to plan and prepare and do all the distribution and stuff that we need to do to promote the show that we have the guests on after the fact. So somewhere between 10 and 12 we'll end up.
Yeah.
We'll end up with guests probably. That was a big one for me. Is I wish that I don't even regret it this year, but I do think that next year it would be helpful to have more guests and experts on the show. And I sort of related to that, but maybe not necessarily. Is I do think we could get into some more nuts and bolts stuff too. Like the episode that we did with Benjamin Henry on crypto was really good. The one we did with Rob on AI was really good.
Yeah.
So I've actually had a couple of requests around this too, of like, let's get the experts in on insurance or finances or taxes or crypto or whatever. I think that would be really good if we could cover more of those topics, like more of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, we definitely need to follow up on crypto. I'm still lost. I'm getting good with AI, but I'm still lost in crypto.
That's fair. I saw there was an article yesterday. Oh my gosh. So crypto continues to be a hot topic after the election, right? And Elon's net worth went from like 400 billion to 500 billion in the last week or something. But it's all on, a lot of it's on paper, but whatever. Yeah. It's kind of a fun exercise. But there are people that will go and create cryptocurrencies. In that episode, we talked about what makes a good currency.
Yeah.
Well, there are people that go out and create cryptocurrencies that don't check those boxes of what makes a good currency. But they say, oh, I'm gonna issue 1,000 coins, and people will go and buy them, and the price skyrockets and drops back down and flies back up and drops back down, and then eventually it dies. So like Hawk Tuah girl created a cryptocurrency, and I think she's getting sued now because it totally flopped.
Oh no.
Well, there was an article yesterday that Fart Coin reached a valuation of like $800 million.
Of course it did.
Right? And it's a meme, it's a joke, I don't even want to call it a scam, because anybody who thinks they're getting scammed by something called Fartcoin is missing the
great.
point. But it's a joke that, imagine being those guys who are probably stoned out of their minds. They're like, we should make a crypto called Fartcoin, right? And then suddenly on paper they're worth $500 million.
I just got a vision of Beavis and Butthead, right?
Yeah.
Sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. Cornholio coin. I can't even say it. But yeah, so I was reading about that yesterday, and I was laughing because it's like there are things that you can do to make a good case for cryptocurrency, and then Fartcoin comes out, right? It's like we say in the legal field that bad facts make bad law. So as we're looking at the employer retention credit, and people are filing all these lawsuits and suing the IRS, and Danny Werfel, I'm coming after you, bro.
Yeah.
As they're filing all these lawsuits, the community of tax professionals is very intentional about the suits that we bring, because we don't want to bring bad facts, right? We want to bring the cases where it's a little more cut and dry and the plaintiff is a little more sympathetic and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, Fartcoin, not so much.
That's great.
All right, there was one other thing I wanted to cover, that this is another theme that I believed, it's in my head, and I know we talk about it, but I don't know that it's clear enough.
Okay.
And this comes back to the separation season episode.
Yeah.
This comes back to why you're not accomplishing your goals. So someone asked me the other day, do you think I'm doing a good job? Mm-hmm. Because the results were not there. And we knew
talked about this was a year of results for us, right?
It was. Yep. And we knew the results were not there.
Yeah.
And I think there are people out there who don't really get it, who would look at those results and say, well, no, you're failing. You're not you're not hitting the goal, whatever. I think a really valuable lesson that we have not spent enough time on this show talking about is you judge the results, you judge your effort, you judge your success on your inputs and not your outputs. So the question is, if you're not sure whether or not you're doing a good job, ask yourself whether you're doing what is required. Are you focused on the most important tasks? Are you focused on the priorities? Have you decided what those tasks and priorities are? And are you doing what you need to do to get them done? And I believe if you do that, over time, you will be successful. You will achieve the results. It may not happen the first time, right? You may do a 30-day diet or a 75-day diet or 75 hard, and you may not lose as much weight as you wanted to, or your mental toughness may not reach the level that it did. But I bet if you go and do it again, and you do everything that you need to do, and maybe you tweak the diet a little bit, and maybe you work out a little bit harder, and maybe you read a different set of books, or maybe your cold showers are just a little bit colder, eventually, if you do what you need to do consistently, you will be successful. Which?
What am I doing?
Your face is making me nervous.
Because what did I say I was doing so that I would be successful in January for 75 hard?
You're getting ready to do 75 hard.
Remember January? So I'm preparing. I'm doing the things I need to do now that are going to set me up to be able to.
Yeah, so that's really the question.
Because I have failed in the past.
I don't think you look at your goal and look at the outcome and measure the gap or measure the distance there.
Yeah.
I think what you say is, what are the process goals? What are the inputs? What are the things that I said that I needed to do? And did I actually do them?
Did I do it?
And again, maybe you get lucky that first time and you do all the things that you thought you needed to do and you reach the outcome that you needed. More likely than not, you did all of that stuff and didn't cross the finish line. So then we go back and decide what's next and do it again. And I think if there are big themes from this show in general, from the last 39 episodes, and it is a show about mindset, really what it comes down to is, does that mindset force you to do the things that you need to do in order to be successful? I think that's what this really comes down to. So if you set your goals and they're important to you and they motivate you, and you go and you make the list and you execute, you will, over a long enough time horizon, be successful.
Absolutely.
You will be more lucky. You will be more happy. You will be more fulfilled.
And that's real stuff. That's real stuff. Like, that's not just throwing some cute words out at you. That's real. That's real.
That's the reality that a lot of people don't want to face, because you got to make sacrifices. If you commit to the list and you go out and do it, you got to make sacrifices. But if you want it bad enough, it will happen.
Yeah.
and I believe in you.
We'll see you next year.
We'll see you next year.
Yeah.
Woof.